Well, hello everyone. This is Matt Stringer with the Texan News. I am here at the Republican State Convention in San Antonio at our booth, and here with me is State Representative nominee for the 53rd House District in the Texas House of Representatives.
You nailed it.
Wesley Virdell.
Thanks for having me.
He won his primary election back in March, and I believe, tell me, you have an opponent this fall.
I have a Democrat opponent in November.
All right. Well, as the nominee for House District 53, which is a Republican stronghold, you're probably feeling pretty good about things. It's a sizable Central Texas district running from the Hill Country to the West Texas oil fields. What issues might you think would be relevant to your district this upcoming legislative session? And also tell us, how do you go about representing such a vast area?
Yeah, so farm and ag is a big one. Water is going to be the real issue. We've had a lot of people move into the district out of the metropolitan areas, and so water is going to be a very large issue. I need to get a better understanding of it, because of how important it is into our district. So I'm talking to a lot of folks from the water districts to get a better grasp of it, to see what's working, what's not working. Size of our district, we are the second largest state representative district in the state of Texas.
I think it's Eddie Morales in
Eddie Morales is number
that's
one.
got the largest. Yeah,
he's got 34,000 square miles, and we have like 25,000 square miles. And
so, just to give our listeners a little bit of a perspective, you've got like Llano, Kerrville,
all the way to Fort Stockton,
all the way to Fort Stockton on the western
Lakey,
side.
Brady, we go all the way up to the Midland County and Ector County line. So
wow.
Pretty big. We're the size of West Virginia, this district. So,
That's a little bit of perspective there.
Yeah.
One state representative district the size of the state of West Virginia. So you talked a little bit about water. Talked a little bit about agriculture. What all have you heard so far on that front as far as what the agriculture community might be concerned about?
Yeah, so there's a lot of looking at water. They want to make sure that their existing water rights aren't trampled on, and I want to make sure we protect existing property rights too. But you also have to you have to find a way to make sure their rights are protected, and you have to find a way to make sure that you can manage the resources you have for new people coming in. So I'm still talking to commissioners and people that work in the water districts, trying to figure out, is there a way that we can implement some kind of water management? And I've still got a lot to learn on it, so it's a very detailed topic that I'm still trying to figure out exactly what everything is on it. But I want to be the best representative I can for those needs for our district. The biggest thing really is more outside of the district. Is we had a representative who was fairly decent on ag and those kind of things, but he was really bad on conservative issues. That was Andrew Murr. He's still the incumbent right now, and I took him on in the race. We made it 5 months into the race. Dade Phelan paid for a poll for him, and a week after that poll was done, Andrew Murr dropped out of the race, and then they
dropped out of the race. So you didn't end up having to face him going into the election, and you actually ended up with a different opponent.
We did. We found out later they had been talking to this candidate a couple months prior, just in case Andy did drop out, and so he got in the race. They threw TLR threw $600,000 behind them. They threw $1 million total behind them, and we got outspent 2 or 3 to 1, and we still got 61% of the vote.
You kind of mentioned that you had some disagreements with the current incumbent or outgoing state representative on conservative-related issues, but you kind of mentioned there that maybe there was some issues more relevant to the district that he might have done well on. Have you had a chance to communicate any with him on his way out?
I don't know if there'll be any communication or not. I imagine he's not very happy with me for calling him out, but he did a couple of things. One is, I'm the state director for Gun Owners of America, and he would not support constitutional carry in 2017 and 2019, so I took that pretty personal. And then he supported the Democrat chairs and Dade Phelan over the last 2 sessions, and so that was another thing we stepped up to call him out. But then he ended up being the leader of the Paxton impeachment. He led the House impeachment team, really presented no evidence to the Senate, and now, because of what they tried to get away with, I believe it's 9 incumbents have lost their re-election so far, and you have 6 or 7 in a runoff right now, and it's very likely that they're going to lose their runoffs also because of it. So.
I think this might actually segue into that topic a little bit. Can you tell us about what the contract for Texas is?
Yep. So it's right now there's 25 of us that have signed it. We think there will be some more coming on board. If you're listening, and you can go to contractfortexas.net, I think it is. Anyways, when you pull that up, you can find out if your representative's on there. If they're not, call them and ask them why they haven't signed it. But the contract is basically, the main gist of it is no Democrat chairs. We want a speaker that agrees to not having any Democrat chairs on committees. And so we have 12 things that we've listed off on there. I don't remember them all off the top of my head. But it basically is saying that we want a Republican speaker pro tem. Because before we had Joe Moody as a pro tem, who is an extreme BLM activist, Democrat, and somehow he was listed as our speaker pro tem, which is pretty wild.
And so for our listeners, whenever the speaker isn't presiding, the speaker pro tem can actually
would fill in, as a Democrat,
step in and serve as the presiding officer
yep.
of the chamber.
Yeah. Not smart for Republicans to be giving power to the Democrats like that. So.
There's been a lot of talk about that here at the convention too. Can you kind of elaborate on the ongoing race for the speakership? I know Representative Tom Oliverson.
Yeah, Tom did a great job. I was at his press release, and he did a really good job laying out, as the next speaker, here's what I would do, and it pretty much falls in line with our 12 items we listed on the contract. We know there's probably going to be 4 or 5 others jumping into the race. Nobody has confirmed yet, so I don't want to say any names yet, but we know that they will be in there.
Keeping options open.
Yeah, and a bunch of them
are.
There's a few of them that are waiting until Dave Phelan loses his runoff before they throw their name in the hat.
What do you think about that strategy?
I don't like it, to be honest with you. I want to see people stand strong from the beginning and say we recognize that this was done poorly and we want to be the difference to change that. So yeah.
So Oliverson jumping in is.
It's great for him. Yeah.
While you're here at the state convention, there's going to be thousands of delegates showing up. They've been trickling in this morning, this afternoon, et cetera, and they'll be considering a wide range of issues. They'll, of course, be writing the party platform. It'll be in place for the next 2 years. They'll be setting rules that govern the party, as well as setting a kind of a short list of here's the top items we want the Texas Legislature to take up, the legislative priorities, so to speak. As these conversations are going on, you're talking with constituents that you're seeing here, other delegates, issues that are on the top. What issues facing rules, platform, legislative priorities are of particular interest to you that you want to emphasize while you're here?
Yeah, there's still talk of strengthening our anti-abortion laws stronger, which I would definitely support. When I get asked, I tell people, hey, I don't ever want to stand before my Creator and say I didn't fight for the unborn. And then anyways, one is the Democrat chair thing. We had somebody came by a while ago and said that they thought that was not going to make it in there, and I thought, I can't imagine that wouldn't make it into our legislative priorities of ending Democrat chairmanship. So I think that'll be in there. We have about 10 more bills we're going to be filing this session for pro-gun legislation, and so I want to see some. We sent resolutions, I think, for about 10 resolutions to the committees that we would like to see added into the legislative priorities. So we'll see where those end up.
Highlight some of those Second Amendment related issues.
Yeah, there's one is fixing the penal code. So currently, short-barreled weapons, which is short-barreled rifle, short-barreled shotguns, is restricted. We want to see that removed out of the penal code. We want to see if somebody claims that they acted in self-defense, we want the courts to have a higher proof of burden to convict somebody. You just saw Daniel Perry get pardoned the other day, and if you're in a liberal district, you're at a disadvantage even if you acted in self-defense. So we want to make sure that the requirements to be proven guilty of something other than self-defense is stronger there. We would like to see civil lawsuits have a stay until the criminal cases are done. That way they're not being civilly sued at the same time while they're
fighting
going
on 2 fronts in 2 different courts.
Yeah, because evidence can come out that's wouldn't come out in a criminal case, but it could end up being made public through the civil case that's occurring at the same time. So,
just rounding off, one other major issue that's being talked about here is in the Rules Committee. They're discussing closing the primaries. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, for me, it makes sense. I'd like to still have. There are people who are much better experts on how the primaries work and what happens there. I have concern that if we lose I'm a little worried about, like, I'm not saying I do in my mind support closed primaries, but I also have concern, is that going to turn people off from voting Republican at that time, where they may end up voting in the Democrat in the general because they somehow weren't allowed to vote in the closed primary. So yeah.
One of the many details that they'll be having to work out as they figure out how to implement the policy.
But I do think we have a lot of Democrats voting. I had a friend of mine, his mom told me one day, we were at a small little breakfast place in Brady, and she says, "Hey, I'm going to vote for you." And I said, "Well, you can't. It's a Republican primary." She's like, "That's okay. I've been voting Republican forever because I want the most liberal person to win." And I'm not liberal, so I don't know why she would say she's voting for him. But I went and looked her voting record up, and sure enough, she is hardcore Beto supporter. She campaigns for Beto, but she has voted in every Republican primary for like the last 12 or 14 years. So that's a real problem.
Interesting details as they sort out how to navigate these rules.
I think our biggest one on the gun stuff, Wyoming, the House and the Senate passed a bill to end gun-free zones in Wyoming. Unfortunately, the Republican governor in Wyoming vetoed the bill. We're going to try to pass a similar bill here in Texas and see if we can end gun-free zones in Texas. So.
Well, almost Representative Virdell.
Yeah.
We appreciate you joining us here at the Texan at the Republican State Convention, and we'll be looking forward to speaking with you some more in the future.
All right, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. All right.